This right here is a complete electric cooking system called the Nomad system, and we're gonna see today if this is something that can help elevate your adventures. Let's talk about what this is, and I have a cheat sheet today because obviously I am not anywhere near the office. I am out and about and trying to collect my thoughts out here, so you're gonna have to bear with me a little bit today. This, in my opinion, is essentially an all-electric version of the Jetboil Genesis base camp. It's almost like this company is just the all-electric version of the Jetboil company. For some people out there, that is a big benefit. Everything feels really premium actually on this. The reactor then fits inside your main pot, which is for cooking pastas and soups and whatnot. And they call this their sizzle pot. Now you might be thinking, there's no handles on these. How do you cook with them? And they actually have this cool system that grips on just by the simple twist of a lever. And if you want to go to the other cook area, you just flick that back, press the button, and it comes right off. So I thought that was actually a pretty neat gadget. The reactor has a dial on the front, which shows you all of the different settings that it goes through. And then, of course, on the back, you have that same premium rubber seal that the Joule had, which is really nice. Only thing that I can see so far that I wish this had was a case, a way to package all this maybe into one. And there's not really a good way for me to fit the handle in there that I can find. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I think if this had a nice case with it, it would be that much better for it to be able to carry around. So now in terms of cooking output, this is a maximum 1,000 watt output, which is going to be the equivalent to a high heat on a gas stove. I'm going to put right on the screen over here all the different watt outputs this has and the equivalent on a gas range, just for you guys if you're interested. Now the reactor has the no burn stop start feature. So if you have it on, nothing's on there, it's not going to be producing that heat. The pots themselves have these holes and this spring material looking thing in there that when it sits on your pot, it locks in, and now the reactor will detect that pot's there and actually start producing heat. As soon as you pull it off, the heat's going to go into a pause mode, and over time, if you kept it off for a while and you forget to shut it off, it does have an automatic shut off. The pot also has a spout on it for pouring out material. If you use the lid, it has a strainer so you can pour out that way. This checks a lot of boxes and it's only $249. Now I know that sounds kind of expensive, but with no reoccurring cost, if you have some sort of power system, it could be warranted. That's just everything on paper. We have to ask the question, can this actually cook? So we're gonna actually cook a meal today. It's gonna be very simple. We're just gonna cook some pasta and some meat and some vegetables. The reason I'm gonna do that is it's gonna allow us to test the pot feature on boiling water. So if this boils water well and cooks pasta good, you can cook rice, you can reheat meals. And then we're gonna use the sizzle pot to cook our sausage and our vegetables and stuff to see how it does. So let's jump into cooking and then I'll give you guys some of my final thoughts. So far the only issue I've run into is the spoon catching the handle when cooking, and so I just removed that handle out of the way. The cooktop is pretty sturdy on there right now, so it's not going anywhere. So, you know, I can stir around and not have any issues. The pasta did boil over, but I think I overfilled it a little bit. That's kind of the only other issue I've run into. Other than that, I mean, it's been cooking well so far. Like I said, that one little thing with the spoon was kind of annoying. Some food was getting trapped underneath it, but after pulling that handle off, I had no issues. Cheers. Quick, simple, easy meal on the cooktop. One issue, the height of the pot. Oh, I probably made too much food. Technically the recipe I used was food for two. I noticed that it was hard to keep the food in there. Now I'm pretty aggressive when I'm stirring and all that, and I'm actually a messy cook. Well, my family will tell you that, but I felt like I made a lot more of a mess with this than I typically would. Now that just could be getting used to it. I'm used to cooking on my other systems, and this is definitely different, but for the most part, it did really well. Now I wanted to take a second after reviewing the footage and thinking back on my time using the Nomad system to go over some pros and cons I found cooking. Now I'm going to start with the cons first, and I mentioned quickly the boil over that happened with the pasta. That was more than likely due to me overfilling the reservoir there, but also it is probably something to do with electric cooking. I have personally always found it more difficult to keep my temperature regulated when cooking with an electric system rather than a gas system. Now that's just my personal experience, so you guys do with that as you might. Now the only reason I'm going to use this as a con is the Nomad system in their marketing language talks about their pot is able to create a consistent boil. Again, I'm going to throw in some possibility of user error there, but it was something to note because it did kind of make a mess on my area. I used to have this happen all the time when cooking with induction or using an electric stove. I personally don't like cooking on electric. I prefer gas. The thing that I also was annoyed with is the spoon hitting the area when stirring. Now I love that feature because it makes it pack down really well. So that's just going to be something that you're going to have to work around. Like I said, I was able to pull that off and I had no issues with feeling like the pot was going to go off the reactor at all. The coating that is on the pot doesn't stick, which makes stirring and keeping things moving really easy. So not having that handle on there wasn't that big of a deal, which leads me to talk about their pots. Now, again, I briefly talked about how the one pot has this boil technology and it's going to help keep that even boil. They have similar language for their sizzle pot, that it has a better heat distribution curve than competitive cookware. I will probably want to try that out a little bit more before I speak too much on it. Cooking with it though, seemed great. It's had a nice sizzle to it. To be called a sizzle pot, it created a nice sizzle. So being able to saute onions and all that, I had no issues at all there. The only problem that, and I'm going to call this a con, they say you can only use their pots and pans. So if you have other pots and pans, you can't use it on the system because of how the reactor's start-stop and pot detection system works. You have to use their cookware, and this is the only style of cookware they have. So you're really limited to that sizzle pan and that pot, which for most overland small camping setups, not a problem at all. A lot of you VanLifers out there too, this shouldn't be an issue. But I do know that some of you might want to use your own cookware, so that's why I'm going to list this as a con. Let's talk about some pros. And one of the pros I didn't talk about, and you guys might have noticed it when I was switching the dials, is there's a timer function. The fact that a timer is constantly running makes it actually pretty nice if you're going to go ahead and throw something on, like let's say a steak or some pasta, but you just can glance down, see the timer where it's at, and then that way you can gauge instead of having to look at your phone all the time. I thought that was a pretty neat feature and a great use of that space on the LED screen. I do love how compact and lightweight that this kit is. Again, I love that you're able to pack everything in. It doesn't take up a lot of space, and you guys, if you've been on the channel for a while, you know that I am a sucker for maximizing the use of our small spaces that we have in overlanding and van life rigs. But to add another con during this Pro, again, that case. I love the fact that the Genesis Jetboil that I use has that carrying case. So I do believe that that is a feature that they need to work on. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the coating on the pots. Because it is that non-stick coating, it made cleaning it a breeze. I was able to wipe things out pretty easily right then and there, and then cleaning it later on, yeah, I had no issues. So that is really nice, especially in our scenarios where we're not carrying a lot of water or things like that. We don't have to waste a lot of resources to try to sit there and scrub and clean. So being able to wash it out and clean it really easy, yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Now, if you guys are interested in picking up this kit, there is a link down below that is an affiliate link. A small commission will be paid back to me. It's a great way just for you guys to help support the channel. There's no extra cost for you. And in fact, if you guys use the code Clark10 at checkout, you're going to receive 10% off of your purchase. If you are new to the channel, my name is Riley Clark. I am a full-time nature and travel photographer. I like to review products like this to help you elevate your adventures as well. If you guys want to join in on this, then hit that subscribe button down below. I know a lot of you who have been following know that I am working on an AC solution for my van, and I want to let you know that content is coming. Things are actually in the mail right now. I've been working on some very exciting developments. I kind of am still mind blown by some of this. So I want to say thank you to all of you guys who have been supporting the channel. Now, we just hit a really big year-long milestone marker, and I just am mind blown for all the support you guys have given to the channel for this past year. I will see you guys though in the next adventure.